Hi, I'm Mr. Jones, John's teacher.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Smith, John's mother.
Fred Washington, Student Support Team's chairperson.
Melinda Thomas, assistant principal.
Hi, I'm Anna Tubman, the school social worker.
Shelley Madison, school psychologist.
Hey, Mr. Washington, how are you doing today?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'd like to schedule an SST meeting for John Smith. And
Good
here's
idea.
my report.
Excellent, I will put it on the schedule, thank you.
All right, sounds good.
Welcome. Let's begin by introducing ourselves. I am Fred Washington. I'm the Student Support Team chairperson.
I'm Melinda Thomas, assistant principal.
Shelley Madison, the school psychologist.
And I'm Anna Tubman, the school social worker. Nice to meet you.
And Ms. Smith, you know me. I'm Mr. Jones, and I'm John's teacher.
Glad to meet you all. I'm Mrs. Smith, John's mother.
Excellent. Thanks everyone for being here today. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss some concerns that Mr. Jones has about John's progress and to see how we can help John be more successful at school. Mr. Jones, why don't you begin by sharing your concerns?
Well, John's currently reading below grade level. He started the year at a DRA of a 2, and he's now at a 4. So some progress is being made, but at this point in the year, most first graders are at a 10 or a 12, so he's still quite a ways behind.
What were his grades on his progress report, the last one?
Well, he's probably about a 2 in both reading and writing, and if my memory serves me, he had 3s in everything else.
What are some things that you've tried in the classroom?
He's been getting some small group instruction when possible. I sometimes read tests and assignments directly to him aloud. And he's also a part of our PALS program now, and that's an intensive small group program for reading, Ms. Smith. And we'll clarify some directions for him whenever needed.
Mrs. Smith, what have you been seeing at home when he's doing his homework?
It takes us about an hour just to get the homework done. I have to be right by his side because he can't read the directions. He gets frustrated and then I get frustrated.
It sounds like you're putting a lot of time on his homework. I can see where that would be frustrating. Mr. Jones, how long should it take him to complete his homework?
Typically 20 to 30 minutes a night, no longer than that.
Mr. Jones, when John reads aloud, which component of reading do you see him struggling most with?
I would say it's phonics. He has a great difficulty sounding some words out, and he struggles with his reading comprehension as well. Now, when I do read aloud to him, he understands much better.
So it sounds like his comprehension, his listening comprehension skills are pretty good, but he struggles more when he has to read on his own.
Yes, that's correct.
How about his attendance? How has it been this year?
He's almost always here. I think he did miss a couple of days when that bug was going around in the classroom.
So you said he's getting PALS. Have you heard from his? What have you heard from his PALS teacher?
Yeah, she's concerned too. In fact, she's seeing some of the same things that I'm seeing in the classroom.
So let's go ahead and review what we've heard so far. John's a first grade student who's experiencing difficulties in language arts. His DRA is a 4, and it should be a 10 to 12. He struggles with phonics and does better with listening comprehension. He's on grade level in science, social studies, and math. His mother reports that homework takes a long time. He's getting very frustrated about this. So let's see what we can do with some interventions.
Well, for starters, he will continue to be a part of PALS.
Absolutely, that's right. I would also suggest limiting his homework to 20 minutes, whether or not he's completed it. After 20 minutes, you can sign off on his homework.
20 minutes, okay.
How often are you in contact with Ms. Smith?
I send his work home weekly in his Friday folder.
Do you think it would be possible to communicate with her on a daily basis, possibly through email or his planner?
Yeah, certainly. I'd be happy to. Ms. Smith, is there anything else that you'd like me to include?
If you could just let me know which homework we should start with, and then I can sign off on after the 20 minutes.
Okay, I can certainly do that. And then if you could do one thing that would help us a great deal on our end, and just read to him for 15 minutes a night.
Anything else?
Yeah, since it sounds like he's struggling with phonics, how about some decoding programs on the computer, such as Starfall?
You know, we do use that in class, but I don't know, maybe he can get some extra time.
Great. And how about some phonics games? I can give you a list of suggested activities after the meeting.
That would be great, thanks.
All right, great. So our interventions here, we have continue with PALS, daily communication with parent, extra time on the computer, phonics games. The parent's going to sign off on homework, and she will read more with John at home. But how will we know when he has made progress?
We will look at his classroom performance and update his DRA, and by the next time that we meet again, we should have his next report card too.
Excellent. All right, we'll mark that down, and let's meet again in 6 to 8 weeks. See how he's doing.
Kirsten Davis, reading specialist.
Hey, Mr. Washington, how are you doing today?
Great, Mr. Jones. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I would like to schedule an SRT meeting for Johnny Smith.
Okay.
Here's the SRT referral form.
Great. Do you have the SchoolNet data review of the student?
I do. I have that right here.
Excellent,
And I
great.
also have some samples of student work frustrated.
Excellent. That's exactly what we need for our meeting.
Okay.
Thanks. We'll put it on the schedule.
All right.
Welcome. Welcome. Let's begin by introducing ourselves today. I am Fred Washington. I am the SRT case manager. I'll be taking the minutes.
Kirsten Davis, the reading specialist. Shelley Madison, school psychologist.
Ms. Smith, we've met before, but I'm John's teacher, Mr. Jones.
I'm Anna Tubman, the school social worker. Nice to meet you.
And Melinda Thomas, the assistant principal.
Nice to meet you all. I'm Mrs. Smith, John's mother.
Mr. Washington, before we get started, may I please see John's team folder and
Yes.
his student overview form?
Sure.
Thank you.
There you are. And let's just remind ourselves of the purpose of today's meeting, to discuss John's strengths as well as areas of concern that we have for him in school thus far. We'll discuss how we can use his strengths to address some of his less developed areas and skills, and how we can help him be more successful in general. Mrs. Jones, why don't you begin by describing some of John's strengths? Mr. Jones, why don't you begin by describing some of John's strengths?
Well, to begin with, Ms. Smith, you have a very nice boy. He always asks if he can help me with something around the classroom. He enjoys using the computers a lot, and he loves listening to stories. He's making adequate progress in math, science, and social studies. And I'm going to pass around some examples of his math and language arts assignments so everyone can see his progress, so we'll pass those around this way. And you can see the progress that he's making in each.
Okay. What are some of the concerns that you have?
Well, my major concern is he's currently well below reading level, below grade reading level. He started the year at a DRA of 2, and he's now at a 4. The problem with that is most first graders at this point in the year, they're about a 10 or a 12.
I see that reading here is checked as a primary concern. What kind of past interventions have we done that are currently here in place for John?
Well, we found that last year John qualified for, and he did attend EDK, which is extended day kindergarten. He did not meet the PALS benchmark in the fall. The score was 17, and the benchmark needed was a 28. In the spring of his kindergarten year, he still had not met the benchmark. His sum score was 80, and the benchmark was 81. He was promoted to first grade, and he was identified for PALS this past fall.
Could you please summarize the student overview form from SchoolNet?
Yes. John ended kindergarten with 2s in reading and writing and 3s in content subjects. His work habits were rated as satisfactory on his report card, and citizenship was rated as outstanding. As I mentioned, he scored below the benchmark on both fall and spring PALS tests. His most recent grades are 2s in reading and writing, but he's otherwise meeting grade level standards with 3s. And he does continue to show outstanding citizenship skills and some satisfactory work habits.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mrs. Smith, what have you been seeing at home when he's doing his homework?
It takes us about an hour to do his homework. I have to be right beside him reading the directions because he can't read them himself. He gets frustrated and I end up getting frustrated.
It really sounds like you're spending a lot of time on his homework. I can see where that would be frustrating. Mr. Jones, how long do you expect it to take for him to complete his homework?
Typically, it should take no longer than 20 minutes.
Mr. Jones, when John reads aloud, which component of reading do you see him struggling with the most?
Well, when we look at his DRA and PALS test protocols, you can see that he has some difficulty decoding words.
So we can see by the data and the work samples that John does well with math, uses pictures and context to understand what he reads, but is struggling to sound out words.
Yes,
And he also has a low sight word vocabulary.
yes, that's correct.
Well, and looking at his student overview form and the cumulative record, we can see that his attendance really doesn't seem to be a factor. And he's been enrolled with us since kindergarten, and he did go to preschool. But his entry physical exam was within normal limits, and he passed his vision and hearing screenings. So health or sensory deficits don't really seem to be factors.
No, as far as attendance, he's almost always here. I think he might have missed a couple of days when that bug was going around in the classroom.
All right, well, let's just review what we've discussed here already. John's a first grade student. He's helpful and kind. He enjoys using the computer. He's got great attendance and entered kindergarten having preschool experience. He's progressing well in math and content. And current data indicates he's working below grade level in reading and writing. His DRA protocol and PALS benchmark scores leave some room for improvement, but he's exhibiting sight word and decoding difficulties, which is resulting in below grade level scores. His DRA is 4, and it should be a 10 to 12, somewhere in that range. His mother reports that homework takes a long time, he's getting frustrated, and now we need to come up with some interventions.
My first thought is, since his sight word vocabulary is low, we could try the pocket words as an intervention. We could use words from his word study list that you have created, and we can go to the interventionalcentral.com and create a sight word list based on the intervention using words from his classroom readers. And I can help create that list if you'd like. Oh, sorry. Other options to build sight word vocabulary would include incremental rehearsal, drill sandwich.
How much time will these interventions take?
Incremental rehearsal and drill sandwich only take a few minutes each time you do it. And pocket word only takes a few seconds each time it's done.
And we noted that he really enjoys using the computer, so why don't we build off that strength and give him some extra time on starfall.com.
And you know, I could actually make that one of his centers.
Great.
All right, so now that we have specific areas of concern, some suggestions for interventions like the pocket words and the starfall, let's create the intervention plan itself. Concern 1 is sight word vocabulary. Specific interventions that were suggested were the pocket words, incremental rehearsal, drill sandwich. What do you think is going to be most effective here?
I think we should start with pocket words. It's easy, it's effective, easy to implement, and the kids really seem to like it.
Would you be able to help me get that started? Because I'm not that familiar with the words.
All right, so we have an intervention there of pocket words. What about a duration?
60 days is best practice to start.
60 days, all right, 60 school days, let's say. How frequent will this intervention be?
How about starting with 4 times a week?
All right, 4 times a week. Who's going to be responsible for implementing this intervention?
Well, you know, since I'm hearing it only takes a few seconds to review the words, that's something I can certainly do first thing in the morning as soon as he arrives for breakfast.
Excellent.
Okay, great. So who will be responsible for data collection?
What would that involve?
It's progress monitoring. You'd be responsible for collecting data on a weekly basis. It only involves having John read through the list of vocabulary words and counting how many he can now recognize following the implementation of the pocket words intervention.
Since that only takes a few minutes, I can do it every Friday.
All right, there we are. Intervention 1 is complete. Let's go on to the second intervention. The second area of concern was phonics. I like the idea of using his interest in computers by using the Starfall as a center. What do you all think?
I agree with that. So I would recommend we make this intervention that John will use starfall.com as a center 1 time per day in classroom instruction.
We want to say the same 60 school day intervention duration?
Yes.
And I'll be responsible for getting him on Starfall daily.
As far as data collection, let's get a baseline of the letter sounds he does know. I can create a list of letters in random to get this information, and once this is done, and we know how many sounds he knows now, then I can meet with him weekly to review the list and monitor his progress.
All right, I'm writing you in as the one who collects the data on intervention 2.
Okay.
You'll need to keep track of the implementation of the intervention, Mr. Jones. And also, and you're going to get 2 of these forms. Let's meet again in 60 days to review this data and decide where we go from here.
Okay. So one of those forms will be for pocket words and one for Starful.
Great, yep, that's exactly right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.